Hello, everyone. I'm meteorologist Ted Keller, and on today's Weather to Watch, it's the 14th of July, and we still have the possibilities of some heavy rains, flash flooding occurring in some areas, including still parts of Texas. Keeping an eye on that. It seems to be lessening here a little bit. Also in the news, this will be a big rainmaker no matter what happens, but it's possible we could have the fourth named tropical system form by later this week. Let's take a closer look. Well, we might be looking at the fourth named tropical system, at least in the Atlantic basin. And I say that includes the Gulf and all of the Atlantic. But this is primarily going to be a northern Gulf event here. And so we have an area of disturbed weather over Florida that's being eyed. And this area will generally start drifting toward the west over the next couple of days with close interaction to the shore. Warm sea surface temperatures stalled out front, so there are some signs that we could get a tropical system of some kind forming in this area over the next several days. Right now, if we look at the IR satellite loop here, and IR just means infrared. And so this is great, and we start to use this a lot more in hurricane season when it really gets going because it shows the cold cloud top. So what happens here is cloud height is inferred by temperature, and we just color code it so that these reds and these dark blacks here are where the clouds are at their highest and coldest. So it's good for finding thunderstorms. It's great for finding and looking at hurricanes, of course. Right now, it's just a blow up of very heavy rain, mostly on the west coast of Florida. And so where is this headed? Well, one thing we can look at is the European model has an ensemble, and they put about a 5 to 10% chance of tropical storm probability formation right around southern Louisiana. And this is on Friday. And stay tuned to this because this could change. And by the way, it is the fourth storm of the season, so its name would be Dexter. And after that, it would be Aaron. And there's still no activity really out in the Pacific after a rip-roaring start, getting all the way through the alphabet quite a bit. But Gill is still the next name on the list for that. And we've also had some heavy rain potential and heavy rain events, as you know. Let's take a look and see if that's gotten any better. Well, here's a look at the heavy rain hazard. This is the Weather Service letting us know where they think that flash flood guidance may be exceeded within a 25-mile point. So we have a moderate, at least 40% chance in these areas here. We'll zoom in on that. These areas here, well, that's very concerning west of San Antonio. But I'll show you that I think that situation may be easing a little bit as we get into later on tonight and the next several days. Let's start in the Northeast, where there is a flood watch in effect starting up in Connecticut and Massachusetts and running back down through most of Pennsylvania and into Virginia. Here is the radar loop with warnings overlaid. Now the red, in this case, is flash flood warnings, and they are all over the place, just approaching New York City, northern New Jersey, Allentown under flash flood warning, and those warnings also extend all the way up into parts of Massachusetts and also down around just southeast of Harrisburg, PA, and around the Baltimore area. Heavy rain storms in these yellow areas are severe thunderstorm warnings to go along with that. Now, we do have a flood advisory, flood watch in effect for the Hill Country, but this expires this evening at 7 p.m., I believe. And it may not be reissued. So we're watching this area very carefully. They did get flooding rains over the weekend. There's also another area up here. This goes till tomorrow morning, I believe, for much of northwest Arkansas, a sliver of eastern Oklahoma, and there's still a fourth flood watch area. Tucson is in this, as is much of southern and southeastern portions of Arizona. So if we look at the flood hazard for tomorrow, day 2, it's up in the Minnesota, Wisconsin, UP area of Michigan, Nebraska. Still kind of a downpour threat around Virginia, the nation's capital. A little bit still in Texas, and a little bit still, and a lot actually still in Miami, although they didn't pull the trigger on anything higher than slight for tomorrow in parts of Florida. And even that part of New Mexico where that flood watch is in effect still has tomorrow a little bit of a rain hazard. On Wednesday, that shifts to central Pennsylvania, northern Kansas are the two areas that are being watched. Let's take a look at some precipitation accumulation maps. So total precipitation by the Weather Prediction Center. over the next 5 days. So if you see the purple color, if you look down here, that's about a 1 to 2 inch area here. So that covers much of the northern plains and the upper Midwest and parts of the Great Lakes. Certainly you can see the effects of this tropical system here. The yellow color is 4 inches. So Florida is under the gun for that. If we zoom in here on Florida, you can see that some of the rainfall totals include 3, 4, 5 inch totals over the next 5 days. And then some of that starts to get over here, even though much of this is offshore, but it's implied it could be close to southern Mississippi and getting into portions of southeast Louisiana. If we take an even closer look at Florida, you can see some of the forecasts, which include Sarasota 5.5 inches, Tampa just shy of 4 inches. Much of this is in central and western Florida. And then there's that area there that's just offshore. But even at that, Mobile, 2.7 inches forecast for that area. And then we'll just go to the northern plains, that other area I showed you. So that's just the next 5 days. So we got pretty common 1 to 2, almost 3 inch totals for parts of Wisconsin, Minnesota, the Dakotas, and even a swath of Iowa to go with that. And if we look to the heavy rain hazard, this is basically day 3 through 7. So this is Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So, and it's indicated here. So June 18th, there's a heavy rain potential in Iowa, northern Illinois, parts of Wisconsin, and then getting into the 17th, which would start on Thursday. That's when the heavy rain starts to make itself known. Whether that's a tropical named system or not is really not the point. It is going to be a heavy rainmaker, no matter whether it develops into a circulation worth identifying or not. Severe thunderstorm outlook for the rest of today. So this outlook would go till 7 a.m. Central Daylight Time tomorrow morning. And there's 2 areas here. We already showed those warnings in effect around Baltimore, although there were no watches at the time of the recording of this video, by the way. And a little bit of area maybe in South Dakota around Rapid City. We can zoom in on both of these. So there's a slight severe weather risk from Harrisburg, Reading, Pennsylvania, down through Baltimore, Washington, and on down into northern Virginia. And the other areas up around Rapid City, along I-90 there, and getting into the extreme northwestern portion of Nebraska. As far as there really isn't any tornado risk of any substance, I did want to show you NATOcast wind product. There is a probability, about a 30% chance right around Washington, D.C. of some damaging winds, a little higher probability. Not getting too excited about the activity up there in South Dakota either. 3, 2, 1. Day 2, which is Tuesday, has the severe weather threat focused on Nebraska and South Dakota, and also the UP of Michigan, just north of Minneapolis, including Duluth. Rhinelander, Wisconsin would be in that. And then finally, zooming in on that, you can kind of see a little bit more detail on where that is indicated for Tuesday. So that's a 2 out of 5 risk. Tornado risk is almost non-existent with those storms. And then on Wednesday, just kind of a broad area of level 1 out of 5 that runs from Michigan back into the heart of the Central Plains, Nebraska and Kansas, even ending up around Denver and Cheyenne. Now, the supercell composite forecast by NIU for the week of the 21st through the 27th does have a pretty good area of supercell probabilities there through the Corn Belt, really over into Ohio and getting back up into, again, those same areas I've been showing in Nebraska, even parts of Kansas. Let's take a look at the visible satellite loop for the whole country now. You can see the active bubbling of the storms out in the northeast. There is still activity in Texas. It doesn't seem to be real organized at this point, but it is still a possibility. And then the thunderstorm blowup, of course, in Florida, and some intermountain and some high plains activity as well. Here's the 500 millibar flow, pretty weak really. And so we have the jet stream flow across the northern plains. Without that real strong flow, it's hard to get supercell storms to organize for any length of time. That's why the severe weather threats, they're there, but they're pretty weak and pretty widely scattered, not real focused. Mainly it's downburst winds. That would be the possibility when any of those outlooks that I showed you here a few seconds ago. So pretty weak weather systems. There's that upper level low that could be part of with that tropical system that's developing. We'll take a look at the surface here. We have kind of a stalled out front from southern Ohio back into Oklahoma. The northern part of that front is still somewhat progressive as a cool front. Another stalled front across the northern plains as well. Got some hot weather out west, interior Washington under heat advisories, as is much of Nevada, Northern California. Extreme heat warnings around Las Vegas and also in northwestern parts of California. And just a smattering of heat advisories. Many of these, like Minneapolis, is city related. But some of these aren't. Boston probably would be, but most of Massachusetts ahead of the squall lines that you saw. Still pretty hot, and parts of the panhandle of Florida, Georgia, and even parts of Louisiana, including New Orleans. Let's take a look at some high temperatures for Tuesday, tomorrow. So we're still looking at temperatures well above 100 degrees in the southern part of the interior valleys of California, but close to it, 99 degrees in Northern California there. If we shift our attention more to the north, you see interior temperatures tomorrow in the upper 80s near 90s. So not as bad, at least not tomorrow, in parts of Washington. But as you already saw here, look at these highs in Montana, only in the 50s. I'll show you a zoomed in shot of that in a minute. Hazardous heat, so on the 17th through the 18th, so that starts, see, today's the 14th, 15th, 16th, so about Thursday through Friday. Some heat there in the Ohio and Tennessee River valleys. 17th, it kind of progresses in a stepladder fashion. Still hot in the northeast, but then that goes away, and it kind of goes on down the line. So a front is sagging through this area, cutting off the hazardous heat and making it only possible by the 18th through the 20th down in the southeastern U.S. Florida would normally be included probably in that, except to say that they are actually supposed to be a little hotter this time of year, and again, the thunderstorms and that forming tropical system having something to say about that. On Tuesday, this, again, narrow band of relatively cool temperatures in the central plains, but look at these readings up here on Tuesday in Montana, parts of the Dakotas. If we zoom in on that, highs only in the low 50s through parts of Montana, and through much of Montana, nothing gets above 60 degrees. And that's true for parts of North and South Dakota as well. So we'll go ahead to Thursday. Still cool across the northern plains. Yeah, a little warm in the northeast. That's that first leg of that hazardous heat advisory. But it's really kind of an interesting map because for the middle part of July, there really is a lack of really hot temperatures. And the forecast for Saturday, again, is pretty blah. I mean, there are yellow indicates above normal, greens below normal, but nothing real intense. Now, if we look beyond this is Saturday, so let's look through the period Sunday through Thursday of next week. We have pretty hot weather, at least a high confidence of that, from Texas sweeping back through the Carolinas. That's an indicator that that upper level ridge that forms often in the summer and creates the little mini heat waves is trying to form through that period. And then the precipitation looks to be at its highest probability across the northern plains and the Great Lakes states. Thanks for watching this edition of Weather to Watch. It comes out every other day, or as the weather necessitates. Please remember to share this with your friends, subscribe to the channel, or at the very least, like what you just watched. Thanks.